everyone, happy Tuesday. Hope that everyone's well. So today in my Getting Real series, I wanted to talk about drugs. I know that this is quite a controversial topic, and I wanted to talk about this because it's not something that's really readily discussed in the health and wellness industry. I'm conscious that it's a difficult and sometimes painful topic for a lot of people who've maybe been affected by it or have friends or family that have been affected by drugs. And I want to start off by saying that I have no judgment in this area at all. Hey Kitty, thanks for joining, hun. I have no judgment in this area. I'm also not an expert, but I do have a decent amount of experience. Like I've said before, my party girl streak has seen me dabble quite a little bit with drugs, actually with all fingers and all toes in the pond over the last decade. I think my 20s have been, hey Byron, hey Sophia, people hopping on with me. Give me a thumbs up if you're watching. Like I've said before, my 20s have been extremely colourful, and I actually feel quite a lot of sense of pride and gratitude for the stories and the experiences that I've had that probably if I shared it would make my mother's hair stand on end. So drugs is an enormous topic, so I really just want to focus on one area. Inspired by a TED Talk by Johann Hari, he said, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. And expert in addiction, Dr. Gabor Mate, who also does an incredible TED Talk about addiction and drugs, recalls one of his patients saying, "I'm not afraid of dying, I'm afraid of living." Mate says that essentially drugs are all painkillers. They provide us all, hey Lucy, they provide us all, not us all, they provide people with a sense of peace and relief. The addiction is all about oblivion. Ex-Rolling Stone ex-heroin addict, hey Eva, and heroin addict says, Keith Richards says that addiction is just an opportunity to not be ourselves for a few hours. And R.D. Laing, who is a British psychiatrist, said that there are three things in life that people are scared of: death, living, and their own mind. To some degree, we all have a susceptibility to feel emptiness. And we're all addicts in that respect. You know, the average person checks their phone 83 times a day. We're completely addicted to social media. We're also, as a society, completely addicted to sugar. Most of us attempt to feed that form of emptiness and fill that void with something or other, whether it's cigarettes, drinking, drugs, shopping, sex, the internet, food, power and authority, or even work and exercise and going to the gym. We think that that addiction is actually that the addiction is a chemical hook. But it's not quite as quite as simple as that. In the 1970s, there was a Professor Bruce Alexander, who looked at the research that was done at the beginning of the 20th century with lab rats. Hey Terry, with lab rats who were given one bottle of water and one bottle of drugged water. They always went for the drugged water. So Professor Bruce Alexander looked at this experiment and he realised that actually the cage that the rats were in was completely empty. So he wondered what would happen if you filled up the cage. So he created Rat Park, which was essentially, it was like a playground for rats. It was like rat heaven. So it was full of other rats, tunnels, cheese, like food and everything, like a complete fun park, plus normal water and drugged water. And actually, in Rat Park, they almost never went for the drug water, hardly ever compulsively. And actually, the real life the overdose rate went from 100% of the earlier research to 0%, when actually the rats in Rat Park had been had happy and connected lives. Around the same time that this was happening, there was also a real life experiment going on. Not an experiment, but there was a real life event going on, being the Vietnam War. Actually, during the Vietnam War, 20% of American soldiers were using heroin regularly. And actually, scientists started studying the troops when they got back home. And 95% of the troops completely stopped using when they got back to the States. And the archives of the general psychology, did a lot of studying about them. And Professor Alexander also concluded, from all of this evidence, that drugs it's not always about the chemical hook. It's about the cage that you are in, an adaptation of your environment. In the Netherlands as well, Dr. Peter Cohen suggested that actually, hey Melissa, that actually we stop calling it addiction altogether, and actually we just start calling it bonding. As humans, we actually have an innate need to bond. So when you're feeling actually that you're best connected when you are happy and healthy, and actually when you're happy and healthy, that's when you feel like you can best connect with people. Give me some thumbs up if you can kind of see that. When you're feeling really vibrant, that's when you want to go out and connect, and vice versa. When you're feeling really connected and loved, that's when you want to like go out and kind of embrace your wellness. Hey Sophie. So if you can't do that, if you're feeling traumatized, if you're isolated, if you're feeling disconnected or without purpose, you will actually find something else to bond with for that sense of relief. So in Portugal, they had a huge drug crisis, and the government actually they did a government-sponsored research into this, and the research came back to actually decriminalise all drugs, which is what the Portuguese government did. They're the first government to do it. They decriminalised all drugs, and they redirected all of the money that they had spent outlawing addicts into rehabilitating them back into society, providing them with work, business, loans, purpose, giving addicts a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and making them feel connected and loved and valued in society. And as a result, injection drug use actually fell by 50%. That's just facts. Again, I'm not saying that it should be criminalised or decriminalised. I just want to not put myself out for that one. It's not what I'm saying, but just presenting you with the facts. So Gabor Mate, in his TED Talk, also says that a part of addiction, it's not about, sorry, can't get my words out. It's not being able or prepared to be present in your life. Certainly in my experience, the time in my life where I was taking a lot of drugs, I had zero satisfaction in my career, which made me feel really without purpose, totally lost. I was also in a very highly toxic relationship, which was providing me with a huge amount of emotional and mental pain. And my day-to-day mindset as a result was kind of totally lost. And I was in a state of, either underwhelm or overwhelm. And this, it really led me to seek external validation. At the time, I was looking for something to connect to give me meaning. And as well as just having fun in my mid-20s, I was totally investing in the external highs of drinking, smoking, chasing sex, and drugs as well. So in fact, actually, as I became more connected, as I found work that I loved, as I moved to better relationships, I actually stopped craving the highs of the drug fueled kind of highs, and actually it wasn't worth the crashing lows that I also experienced the next day. And I actually started to instead crave more of a constant, which I guess is kind of partly getting old. But it was just that I felt better connected. I had a better sense of purpose and felt of better value. So the concept of needing to look inside rather than outside, hey Tracy, it's not a new thing. Finding that peace and validation from within ourselves is actually a very old concept. It's in biblical teachings. It's actually the root of Buddhism. And we don't always, we don't always stop being addicted to something. Often it just gets transferred into something else. So we can begin to find that addiction in, for example, service to others, or continually start to develop ourselves into better humans. Hey Billy. It's no coincidence that as I ventured more into yoga, the other old habits started to fall away. I felt less of a need for those external highs because the highs were actually being created within myself. And it's not a slow process. It's not a quick process. It's really a lifelong journey. And it's not an easy one. It's all about conscious choices. I recently, for example, decided to quit drinking because at the moment, or I feel like over the last decade, I've actually been addicted to the person that I am when I'm drinking. I'm a heightened, crazier version of myself, and I was addicted to being that person. And I'm also, as a person, completely addicted to feeling alive. That is my top value in life. It's I love it from all sources, just that sense of being alive. And that's what I loved about taking drugs. It really just heightened that. And therefore, my needing to feel alive really has to be translated into what I can offer others. So that's kind of where I am at this point in my journey. So my conclusion with all of this, and I've rambled on and on about drugs, is to do with conscious, empowered choices. It's the same conclusion that I came to with smoking and alcohol. If you know that you're smoking, drinking and taking drugs to have fun with your friends or to have a new experience, that's, I'm not going to judge it as right or wrong. Remember, no judgment. But, that's one thing. That's the reason you're doing it. That's one thing. But if you're doing it to hide, to distract yourself, to seek validation, to feel some form of relief or purpose, that's really another thing. And all we can do as humans is just to become more present, to move beyond the fear of being up in our own heads, just by making our minds and our bodies a better place to be in. So that's my conclusion. That's kind of, I've gone all over the place about drugs, but if anyone has any insights or any questions, I would love for you to share with me as well. If anyone has any comments, please write in the comments below, or just hashtag replay, just so I can see who's hopped on with me. I would love to see who's been on to support me. So thank you very much for joining. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking more about stress and anxiety and depression. So I hope that you guys will join me for that, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Goodbye.